that's helpful.
Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Orlando. I am Charles Connelly-Candelario, a member of 1U and a worship associate. Also in worship today are Neil Boris, music director Aubrey Connelly-Candelario, accompanist Danny Manos Villegas, and board member Michael Lewis. We send a heartfelt thanks to all 1U team members who support 1U worship in so many ways. Today we will sing our RE children to classes after time for our ladies. Youth are with us in the sanctuary today, and the nursery is available until 12 noon. We welcome all to join us as we explore our Unitarian Whoever you are, whoever you love, you are welcome here. You're welcome here, regardless of your color, national origin, gender, sexual orientation, age, physical or mental abilities, economic status, or religious background. We welcome you. For more information about our congregation and announcements, go to orlandouu.org or email info@orlandouu.org. We have an invitation to visitors. Please join us in the Conversation Corner in Gore Hall's foyer during fellowship after the service. We'll be chatting about the topic of our service or whatever attendees wish to discuss. Bring your beverage and let's get to know one another for a little bit. Right now I invite Music Director Aubrey Connelly-Candelario to give us a brief message.
I'm here to give a brief testimonial about Holly Neer and our upcoming concert with her. I'd like to start by saying Holly Neer turned me gay, and I'm fine with that. So I first heard Holly Neer when I was about 11 years old. My sister had been big in the women's movement in Columbus, Ohio, mid-1970s, late 1970s, and she went to the Michigan Women's Festival, heard Holly's music, and brought back a couple of her albums. And my sister gave me the albums, and I just played them until the albums wore out. And I don't know how many times I had to replace those needles. And I remember in my little bedroom in Marion, Ohio, Midwest America, 11 years old, thinking, gosh, I wish there was just something about me that was different so I could relate to Holly Neer's music, because she spoke about being a feminist, being a woman, people who are on the outsides, and there I was, this little white privileged straight boy, and so I had to become gay so that I could sing Holly Neer's music. And so I will always thank Holly Neer for that. Yeah, because it wasn't biology. Okay, it was biology. I'm being sarcastic. I don't want to put stuff out there on the internet that people could use against us. But Holly Neer has meant everything about music to me. It was because of Holly Neer I heard her, a choir, and a gay chorus singing her music when I was 21. And it was the first gay chorus festival in America, and they were singing a couple Holly songs and talking about that. And it really inspired me to think that I could come out, I could be out in the world, and I could be a musician. I could spread my music and Holly's music and the music of so many other people. And I'm so excited. Like, you can't believe how excited I am to have her here in our church. I've met her before, I've gone to her concerts, but there's just something really special about the fact that she'll be here in our home, singing for us and with us. If you haven't bought your tickets yet, please do. If you know folks who want to come, please let them know. We're pretty close, well, we're more than halfway there, but we're not at the 300 we want to sell. We'd like to sell another 100. So get out and do what you can in the next 2 weeks, and let's show Holly there is a heart, there is a blue dot here in Florida that welcomes her. And I'll tell you that one of the reasons we got a pretty good deal with Holly, and she actually said, I need to come to Florida. If you're asking for me, I'll be there. So she gave us kind of a break, and because she knows we need her. So we'll see you all September 9th.
Thank you, Aubrey. All other announcements are on the slides before and after the service, and we have links in the weekly update or on our website. If you'd like to follow along in the service, please use our QR code shown in the monitor. And on the first few slides, I want to thank you again for being here in person and online today. Please say these words with me as we light the chalice. In the light of truth and in the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. Please rise in body or in spirit and join me in singing our opening hymn, number 151. The words for all hymns will appear on the screen above.
Well, all right. My name is Neil Boris. I'm also a member of this church and a member of the worship team, and I'll be here throughout the service today, sprinkled around, as we say. I chose that hymn. I like that hymn. That's got some vim and vigor to it. Aubrey, I love it. Now, we get to step toward worship, and we're going to start today with what we call a responsive reading. These are also in your hymnals, so this is number 628. If you want to pull your hymnal out in front of you, you can find it there. I'm going to ask you to read aloud the words in italics, so the top part of the slide is mine, the bottom part of the slide is yours. Let's go. In the tomb of the soul, we carry secret yearnings, pains, frustrations, loneliness, fears, regrets, worries.
In the tomb of the soul, we take refuge from the world and its heaviness.
In the tomb of the soul, we wrap ourselves in the security of darkness.
Sometimes this is comfort, sometimes it is escape.
Sometimes it prepares us for experience. Sometimes it insulates us from life.
Sometimes this tomb life gives us time to feel the pain of the world and reach out to heal others. Sometimes it numbs us and locks us up with our own concerns.
In this season, where light and dark balance the day, we seek balance for ourselves.
Grateful for the darkness that has nourished us, we push away
So there are many souls around and about in this sanctuary this morning. Now it's time for us to greet one another. Spend a few minutes. All right, folks. And now, for one of my favorite parts of the tradition of our services. I love good children's books. And I got one today, people. Straight out of Amazon overnight delivery, $9.99. It's called The Lion Inside. So I welcome all of the children and the young at heart to come down, join me here. Let's enjoy it together. One of my own. I love it. I love it. And Charlotte's with us too. That's fantastic. Come on down, guys. I know. Now, this book has some wonderful art, and so I'm going to hold it up high for you guys as well, as best I can. But here's the front cover. It's called The Lion Inside. Yeah, Lion Inside. It's by Rachel Bright and Jim Field. Yeah. In a dry, dusty place where the sand sparkled gold, stood a mighty flat rock, all craggy and old. And under that rock, in a tiny full house, lived the littlest, quietest, meekest brown mouse. Do you guys see the mouse's house? Right? It's cool, isn't it? It looks like a little dot, but it's way down at the bottom of the big rock. He was so very tiny, so incredibly small, that nobody noticed him ever at all. He got trod on and sat on and missed out for stuff, ignored and forgotten. Yes, mouse life was tough. And you see the zebra booty right on top of the mouse. That's my favorite illustration right there. Ouch. Exactly. Ouch. That's what it says. Tiny mouse. Meanwhile, far above, on top of the rock, times were quite different. It was lion o'clock. This huge, toothsome creature made sure everyone saw how important he was by how loud he could roar. Very loud, I know. But we're doing the lion roar. He was head of the pack. He was shouty and tough. He loved showing the crowd he was made of strong stuff. Yes, all were impressed by this mighty king cat. If only, thought Mouse, I could be more like that. And you see the lion holding the hippo up because he's so strong. Isn't that funny? Yeah. I love it. This hippo, see?
That's about as big as a truck.
It's about as big as a truck, and he's holding it in the air. I know, it's crazy, right? It's heavy as a truck, too. What the heck? Then, late one dark night, in his Minnie Mouse bed, the cleverest thought popped into his head. He jumped for the covers and he held up a paw. I've got it, he said. What I need is a roar. I mean, what if this mouse with the weeniest squeak was a little more grrr and a little less meek? Well, he'd still be the smallest of fuzzy brown mice, but he'd make friends and join in, and life would be nice. Nice mice. And he thought in his bed, I'm going to get my roar. Yes, thought the mouse, I must find out how. I will learn to roar. I will learn it now. But gulp, oh my gosh, there was only one beast who could teach him this thing, but it might make him a feast. It was time to be strong. Take a chance after all. Forever was such a long time to feel small. What's he going to do, guys?
He's going to ask the lion to teach him how to roar.
You got it.
And then he's probably going to eat.
Then he's going to eat the mouse. Are you worried about that, Maya? The mouse is worried about that. Whoa. So he made himself brave, and he thought like a winner. He set off for the top, hoping not to be dinner. It felt like the scariest thing he could do, but if you want things to change, you first have to change you. There you go. You're welcome. The further he climbed, the closer he got to the slumbering lion reclining on top. Then at last, as he stood on his tippity toes, he found himself suddenly nose to nose with the lion. Gulp. Pardon me. Wake up, Mr. Lion. You've got company. I'm Squeak. Mr. Lion, what I've come to you is Squeak. Do you think you could teach me to roar? And look at the lion woke up. Oh! Oh! A silence befell that twinkling plain. Lion opened his eyes and puffed out his mane. Time slowed right down, why it felt like a week. Then he opened his mouth and let out an eek. The lion stared at the mouse. What the heck? The lion was shaking, his paws all a-fumble. He was backing away with a scrambling tumble. Don't hurt me, he whimpered. Oh, try to be nice. Well, my goodness, this lion was frightened of mice. Don't worry, Mouse peeped. I'm a friend, not a foe. Let's rock this together. We'll have fun, don't you know? I love rhyming books too. That was a magical moment for sure. When Mouse didn't feel at all small anymore, he had found his true voice and learned to speak out. And for that, you don't need to roar or to shout. And from that day and always, the two were a pair. They both liked that rock better now that the rock was to share. The mouse, while still little, felt big in his head. And Lion, he still roared, but with laughter instead. Whoa, they're friends now. Isn't that cool? Yes, that day both learned that no matter your size, we all have a mouse and a lion inside. And a person too. We'll throw that in. Yeah, and a person too. All right, we're gonna sing our kids out to their activities. Youth are welcome to stay in the sanctuary or join the kids as they wish. This little light of mine, on we go. Bye, see you later.
morning. I'm Michael Lewis. I'm on the Board of Trustees for this congregation. We now invite you into the practice of generosity. It is one of our spiritual values which sustains the life and the ministries of our church community. Let us be grateful for the opportunity to give, for it is a privilege to be able to do so. And let us be grateful for our needs, for they give us the opportunity to practice receiving. Today's full collection will go to the ministries of this congregation. Note that you can also give online using the link. For our Share the Plate for August is Harbor House. The center provides safe shelter, a 24-hour confidential crisis hotline, counseling, emotional support, and services for families impacted by domestic violence. Please use the link in the newsletter or on the screen to donate directly to Harbor House, and please let one you know that you have donated. The offering will now be collected.
Listen to the voices of the old women. Listen to the voices of the old women, calling out the messages of the moon and sea, telling us what we need to know in order to be free. Listen to the voices of the old women. Listen to the voices of the First Nations. Listen to the voices of the First Nations, calling out the messages of the earth and sky, telling us what we need to know in order to survive. Listen to the voices of the First Nations. Listen to the voices of the young children. Listen to the voices of the young children, calling out the messages of the heart and soul, telling us what we used to know before the lies were told. Listen to the voices of the young children. Listen to the voices of the First Nations. Listen to the voices of the old women. Listen to the voices of the living.
That was lovely. Thank you, Aubrey. Let us joyfully receive what is offered here today in the spirit of gratitude and fellowship.
This is the time we set aside for deep sharing of our hearts and for prayer and meditation. If you have a sorrow that you need witnessed or help with, or you have a joy that you wish to share, please contribute to our collective sharing of joys and sorrows to be read each Sunday during worship. You can send an email to joysandconcerns@orlandouu.org during the week, or if you're attending in person, you can also fill out a card at the registration table and hand it to an usher before the start of the service. After the meditation, we will call you forward to participate in our candle lighting ritual. Bring your joys and your sorrows as we come together. Come as you are. Your whole self is welcome in this sacred space we are creating together. Joys and concerns from 1U. Today's flowers were provided by Colleen Wiederhold Hope I got that right. And she dedicates these flowers to the August birthday people. Happy birthday month to you. Roderick will undergo surgery for cancer at Advent Health Celebration Hospital on Tuesday. Please lift up the surgeons for a successful operation and a return to good health and happiness for Roderick and William. Beth Tura shares, Laura Smith is scheduled for hip replacement surgery on Monday. I know she would love your encouragement, sympathy, and positive vibes. She'll be home for at least a month recovering. We have two joys from our congregation. Thanks to the more than 25 people who showed up yesterday to dedicate our closets and to have the AV and Mystic Grove who did it earlier in the week. We are so organized now, from Dan Humlet. And we want to wish a happy 6th birthday to Esme Allen, a new first grader, from Kirsten and Jenny, Joyful Moms. In our local Orlando community, we're disheartened by the recent vandalism on 2 buildings from Zebra Coalition and the LGBTQ+ centers. Beautiful murals were defaced with hateful, homophobic messages and anti-Semitic symbols. We're thankful for community members stepping up and helping paint over the vandalism yesterday. We will not allow hate to win. In our Florida community, we hold in our hearts the people of Jacksonville, reeling from the attack yesterday. A white male gunman wearing tactical gear killed 3 people at a Florida Dollar General store in a horrific attack targeting the Jacksonville Black community, using an AR-15 style assault rifle and handgun covered in Nazi swastikas. According to the police report, the gunman, who has not been identified, hated Black people and was described as a white male in his early 20s, and the sheriff said that all 3 victims, 2 men and a woman, 2 men and a woman, were Black. In the words of Representative Anna Escamani, this is not right. We must stop what is a deadly combination of hate and loose gun laws. From the larger community, our thoughts are with the communities in Maui who have been devastated by the wildfires there. And for all the joys and sorrows of this community and the world shared today, and for those held close to our hearts, let's pray, let's celebrate, and send each other healing energy as we find joy in using our creative spirits for good in this world. Let us sit here for just a moment. Gather our thoughts. Let our bodies find their center. Allow your arms and your hands to rest beside you or on your lap. Let your feet rest on the floor. Listen. Just be. Let the thoughts that arise, arise. Let them settle back down and just be. At this time, you are invited to come forward and light a candle of remembrance, loving kindness, or hope.
Well, hello again. Here we are. I'm really pleased to be in front of you today. I enjoy putting together reflections for my friends here, this congregation. And for me, it's really a journey into where I'm at spiritually, what's happening in our world, and so on. Now, I must say, the title, which you see behind you, is not the most warm and welcoming title in the world. I will admit that, and I'm going to blame Reverend Margley. She knows I'm doing this. Actually, we had a laugh about it the other day. She sent me an email right over July 4th weekend saying, "Hey, Neil, we need your title for the end of August." And I really hadn't figured out what the heck I was going to talk about. And it was July 4th weekend, and I was in a bit of a state about our country. Can I get an amen? Amen. Right? So I said, well, I'm going to have to talk about this. This is where I'm struggling. So here's a title. And then I realized later, again, it wasn't the most warm and welcoming title ever. But that's all right. Again, it's where I am. And perhaps you are too. Now, before you head for the exits, I promise we'll at least have some fun today. Okay, it's not going to be all dark. But this is, I think, a challenging time for all of us. Yes? If I asked you, and I will right now, to shout out a word or a phrase about the state of things in our country at this time. Racism. Say again, John? Discombobulated. Fascism. What? Book banning.
Too many jerks.
Too many jerks. Thank you, Paul. Angry. Heartbreaking. Yeah. It's hot. It's hot. Flat out. It's hot. Yeah. On more than one level, I might add. Right? Yeah. On more than one level. Now, I'm a mental health provider by training. I do different things now. We'll talk a bit about that now. But I am vexed and discombobulated. I like that word. Distressed and, in some senses, overwhelmed by what's happening. This is an image that I found on the web that I think captures what we all experience and feel, right? In terms of our politics today, the political divide. But I think we would argue and agree that democracy truly is under threat. Yes? Yes. It's under threat. And when we think about gun violence, the Jacksonville story yesterday, it's overwhelming. Reverend Kwong, Aubrey, Connelly-Candelario, Reverend Hamlet Allen, in this sanctuary, in this summer, have all talked about how the LGBTQ community is under attack in this country at this time. And so the vandalism that I didn't even know about until I came here this morning is just part of a pattern. In a sense, in my worldview, we are attacking our own. If we added a little side dish of climate change and all it has wrought on our planet, so much to worry about and to think about. I've been on this Portugal gig. Mike Mataluni isn't here today, he's sick, but Michael and I are talking about moving to Portugal. Who's with me? Who's ready to go? Yeah, let's do it. But then again, moving to Portugal is lovely, but probably not a cure for what ails us, right? I have thought about this idea, and when I was asked to talk, it sprung to mind of losing faith. Does that make sense to you? That in a sense, with everything happening, it's easy to lose faith. Now, I will say that faith is an interesting word in UU congregations. We'll get to that in just a moment. But I thought I'd put this slide up just to tell you that most of you are really good humans. In fact, all of you are. I used this quote from Martha Nussbaum in a previous sermon that I did here at 1U, so you may recognize it, I don't know. But if you're shattered by all this, that just means you're a good person. Congratulations, I'll take questions now. When I used this quote previously, it was in a talk about reparations, and my sense that America's original sin of slavery has never, ever been dealt with in any real way. And that the cost of that to our society and the racism that still exists, you shouted it out, is extreme. It's part and parcel of why we are here. But I hold that openness to the world with firmness. We must all stay open. We must all risk being shattered to make something different from what we have now. Martha Nussbaum is a philosopher currently living. She actually lives and works in Berlin, Germany, and she talks, her work is really about how Germany has dealt with its past, Nazism and so on, in a very different way than America has been able to deal with its past. So, how did we get where we are? And how did we get to this point, at least for me, this is me, of, in some ways, losing faith? Well, let's talk about faith. Again, in a UU congregation, it's always interesting to bring up a word like that. Here's Hebrews 1:11 from the Bible. Now, faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. And that term, blind faith, I don't know if it comes from this, but I suspect it probably does. And it's an interesting frame, right? Having blind faith in a future we cannot see amidst the discombobulation of our present time. One of the interesting things about being a UU is that we put our faith, in a sense, in our 8 principles. Yes? That's how we roll. Among us, we probably have a lot of different feelings about higher powers, a god or gods that we may owe faith to. We don't tend, though, as UUs, to give up the power to things not seen. You know what I'm saying? We tend to say, no, that's on us. Right? We're humanists in a sense. And I'm that way too. So we arrived where we are, and now it's probably going to be up to us to figure out where we go from here. Does that make sense to you? Yeah. I have nothing against faith, and in fact, I will say, in another sermon I did, this is now more than 10 years ago in New Orleans, I talked about faith, and I titled that Falling into Faith, because as a kid, I always really wanted to believe in something big. This came from a friend of mine. He lived down the street around the corner. His name was Steve Bushnell. He was my buddy in elementary school. We hung out all the time. And I would go to Steve's house, and I would hang out with him. And his mom, she was a woman of faith, which meant she was strict. And I mean strict. The woman scared the crap out of me. But she had these moral rules, including children should not be heard, one of the rules. And she had this sense of righteousness that was part and parcel of who she was, part and parcel of what that family was about, and it wasn't the same. And as a kid, this slide really is sort of an amalgam of my images of faith as a child. I didn't know about religions. On this slide are really two different religions depicted in a sense. All I knew was one gives oneself over to some internal holding place for which you are given some faith. And I thought, I want some of that. Seems pretty cool. I'm in my 60s now. I just got reality. As far as I've gone down that road. And so it's really about faith. That's what I got. And my faith is shaken. You know what I'm saying? In a sense, what I'm hoping for is the assurance or conviction that we're going to be okay. You know what I mean? And part of what motivated me today, because I'm a science guy, professor, I like to figure out why we got to where we are so I can figure out how we can get out of it. Does that make sense? And I've been really puzzling how the heck did we get where we are? Twitter. It's really an interesting question. And I'm going to say that I think now, and I will say this is the last month I've been really getting into this. I think I've got something to say about it through the eyes of a sociologist named Harmet Rosa from Germany. Fascinating guy and a fascinating thinker, and I've been kind of soaking up what this person has to say. Okay? This is not a picture of Professor Rosa, by the way, but he does talk about how our relationship to time has changed fundamentally. And it's a fascinating thing to think about. And I'm going to take you on a little thought experiment. If you watch his TED Talk, and you can check this out, he does this exercise in the TED Talk. I'm going to do it now. He says, okay, let's imagine that there are aliens watching the Earth. And they've been doing it for 500 years, kind of checking out what's going on down on that planet, what's happening. Does that make sense? So they've been at this since, say, the 1600s. They've got cameras and monitors and all that stuff, and they're, again, checking out what's happening on Earth. Okay? 1600, awfully boring place. There's a ship every so often, say a Marco Polo, rolling slowly across the ocean from one continent to the other. Yes? And that's about it. There's 500 million people. It's an agrarian society. They're all kind of huddled in clumps. They don't even cover much of the surface of the earth. It's quiet. Here we are, 500, 600 years later, things are different. And he argues that actually, if you think about modernity, we are in a post-modernity, a hyper-modernity phase. So he says, hey, from about the 1960s, 1980s, this is my childhood, okay? We have put people on the moon, learned to fly, and right now, we have 1 million humans in the sky. Right now, here. Some are arriving at Orlando Airport, others at airports around the world. There's 1 million people in the air in this moment. Our population in the 1960s was 3 billion. Now it's close to 9. So that's 6-fold and then 3-fold again in just this last 70 years. Rosa says, what we have is an hyper-modernity that has escalated to a place where we as humans are not even fully aware of how it's impacting us all. Except when we stop and think about it. Information flow is another thing, right? So the internet is new. And someone shouted out, we are where we are because of Twitter. Yeah? And that's not crazy talk, right? But the flow of information, and now we get into artificial intelligence, again, has escalated so quickly and to such a degree that we worry, quite literally, we're no longer in control. And Rosa says, good reason to be worried. He calls this new relationship we have with time desynchronization. And he says, and this has been my experience, most of us feel like we're on a hamster wheel running as fast as we can just to stay up with everybody else. And we don't think we're doing it. Anybody else like that? Okay. Welcome to Rosa's world. He calls this whole thing social acceleration, and he's written a big book about it. I haven't gone through the whole book, but to me, it's really interesting. And that is a picture of Harmut Rosa. This is the guy I'm talking about. Of Harmut Rosa, this is the guy I'm talking about. Hyper-modernity, the pace of change is so fast, we can't even conceive of the implications. It's a fascinating premise, and it so resonates with what I feel these days. Okay, let's keep going. Here's the basic premise of that book. I reduced it down to one silly slide. The wonder of Google that I can find these images, yes? So hypermodernity brings good things too. But he says really that this is a three-headed monster in a sense, this social acceleration problem that we are now dealing with, right? Technological advances, and all of us over our lifetimes. It's stunning, yes? What's happened? Social change and the pace of life, quite literally our capacity to move around the world, virtually and otherwise, is absolutely beyond what was even possible when I was born, to a degree that, again, we have a hard time making sense of it. And it's driven, the heartbeat of this thing, in a sense, is global capitalism and consumerism. And who's been worried about consumerism? Any of you all? The church of things, right? Okay. Now, I did say it would get lighter, didn't I? At some point. But I'm still working my way there. All right. And what Rosa says is, look, where we are, this is not confusing. See, that was the thing. When I started thinking about this, I was confused. I did not understand, really. I couldn't put it together. But he said, look, planetary extraction and global consumerism, they go hand in hand, right? So that's easy. Democracy failing is also easy. It's a slow process, the democratic process, right? Change takes years. When the pace of social change is so rapid, democracy doesn't have much of a chance. And that's why we are there. And then, when we as humans experience change and the disruption of it, we get burned out, overwhelmed, anxious, depressed. Anyone want to talk about that? Right? So for him, it's like, yeah, this is the deal. Here's the deal. And what he says in the second book that he wrote is about alienation. It's a very short book. He just says, look, acceleration leads to alienation. That's the deal here. And it shouldn't surprise us, really. And so, we are all alienated in various ways. The person who put those symbols on the Zebra Coalition mural is an alienated person. Do you understand what I'm saying? And we are alienated by that act, and so we all, in a sense, share versions of alienation. Now, I know what's right and wrong, guys. I know what's right and wrong, okay? We know what's right and wrong. But we're just talking about what is. Desynchronization, rupture in our relationship with time. Really interesting. And this image, again, it's generated on the web. It strikes me. I think it's true. Time almost seems like we're disjoined from it in some ways in life. Sometimes it's moving slow, sometimes it's moving fast, right? But we feel as if we have little control over how it moves and what happens in our world. Now, I just want to remind you, if you're shattered by this, you're a good person, okay? Let's come back to that. And I also want to say that we should be shattered by this, and we should also think and try and understand what the heck are we supposed to do about it, right? That's another piece of the puzzle. And I think that's a fascinating question. And as it turns out, so does Harmut Rosa, right? Like, so he's been under some fire saying, okay, dude, great, you helped us understand where we are. How do we get somewhere else? So this is the new book. This little skinny thing that I'm not even halfway through. I apologize, I couldn't read it all in time to stand up here today. But what was fascinating to me about this book is that this concept of resonance is something I have thought about for a lot of years, and in my daily job, actually think about a lot. So the book's titled Resonance, A Sociology of Our Relationship to the World. And it's really about how do we calm the flames, take back our relationship with time and with each other, so that we may find something different. And the idea would be to get out of the cycle of hyper-modernity and what it means. So what is resonance? You guys, tell me what the word means to you. Coming together. Coming together. What else? Can't hear you. Vibrating. Yeah. Neat. Anybody got any of those? Balance. Yeah. Back and forth. Interconnection in a sense. Yeah? How external forces create internal responses. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let me show you a video. This video is from my team at the work I do day in and day out. And this video is about resonance. We put this together for a training we do.
In developmental psychology, soothing comes first. We often don't know this, but soothing is the foundation of emotional development. Donald Winnicott has a wonderful term for this, which is a holding environment. We need a holding environment, somebody to hold our mind and our heart, somebody to hold our limbic system. And we need to learn to speak limbic. It's an actual language. Because the holding environment speaks limbic. It doesn't use words, even though it uses words to get something across, but the fundamental message is an emotional sense of being held. Not just physically held, but emotionally held. So limbic resonance can be described as the reverberation between my mind and your mind, my heart and your heart. So one being vibrating with the frequency of another being. Things slow down, we're not doing something to somebody, we're allowing it to happen with them. Psychotherapy is an interesting process where we go to school to learn to do things to people, when in fact, what we most need to do is sit in a room and be with them. What do we do when we teach our circle security work for parents? Slow things down and be with your child. So the simple resonance of offering and the simple resonance of being received, and it really is a two-way street. And this is what we mean by being with. It's this two-way street in which you sound in me and I sound in you. And there is a resounding as I allow you to have an experience, and it's an emotional experience, it may be a verbal experience, it may be something in between. But I wait long enough to allow it to happen. What happens when you do allow somebody to sound in you? And we're not making it up, we're not inventing this, we're not trying to create something that's not actually here. We're coming home to something that's natural. That's what I find so helpful. We're just so busy staying away from it that we think it doesn't exist. So Daniel Stern, when I was studying with him, said, it's almost as though you're dropping something into a well and you hear it land. And it's such a profound experience to drop something into a well and wait and wait and wait and then know it lands. And he said, that's what we're waiting for. That's what we're all looking for.
pretty good team. Ken Hoffman's a mentor and friend of mine, and Deidre, Andy, and all of them that put that together. It's fantastic. And Ken says resonance is coming home to something that is natural. Underneath all this, underneath all of this, there is resonance. And in my view, it's everywhere. Next slide. It's everywhere around us. And so much of it is about finding what's there. So for us, finding resonance will allow us to find a way out of the desynchronization that modern times have brought. This is an image from the Women's World Cup. The winning team, Spain, and the losing team, England, in a moment after the game in which one woman goes to comfort another. And this image got a lot of press, as it should. So, the battles we have in these modern times. Thank you for your time and attention this morning. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure to be in front of you. And so now, let us join in our closing hymn, the words of which will appear on your screen. It's Blue Boat Home.
Flow below me, I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean. Still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now. Never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I traveled, and the earth is my blue boat home.
And so, friends, Kent likes to talk about a cultivation practice, finding moments of resonance that are there around us every day and looking for them, searching for them, and holding them. Doing it in community, which is, of course, part of why we are here, is really important too. Community being much more than belonging to something. It's about doing something together that makes belonging matter. Go now in peace. Let us extinguish the chalice. Please say these words with me as we extinguish our flame, carry in our hearts until we are together again.